In the southwest corner of the state of Tennessee, along the mighty Mississippi, sits a city on a bluff, a place in history that has helped shape America. From the birth of rock and roll, the home of soul, and the keeper of blues, to a growing culture of food, theater, and passionate, hardworking people. But in this city, there's another culture. For decades, Memphis has been home to another form of grit, another style of grind. This is Finding Tobey.
Because that's the kind of unique thing about Memphis is you can have almost 1 million people, but everybody knows each other, and it's a really small town where lots of things are interconnected. So Memphis is real family connected.
Home, definitely. I mean, not just where I physically live, but even when I lived away, away didn't always feel like home. Memphis is what felt like home. Come back for just short trips on holidays. Flying in Memphis International, just you get that feeling like, oh, I'm coming home.
I have traveled to a lot of places, and over the course of the years, I've always said there was just never a place that I'd rather live than Memphis.
Memphis is really complex in a small town sort of way, with really big city problems and big city issues.
Memphis has a lot of pride, but at the same time has a lot of apathy.
Memphis does have its challenges, but what city doesn't?
A lot of pride and a lot of apathy. We love the potential of the city, but we are constantly convinced that there's not a lot we can do with that potential.
I love it. I love what it has to offer. Yes, it can offer more, but I just feel like, being a part of making things happen in Memphis has kind of contributed to me just thinking that this is one of the greatest places that I've ever seen.
But when you leave and you're someplace else and people mention Memphis, if it's something negative, it doesn't matter if you're from the better part of Memphis or you're from the not so great parts of Memphis, everybody understands it. Like, hey, we can talk about Memphis, you can't.
Among my friends, we had a saying like, I can say whatever I want about Memphis, you can't.
It's our town, and it's like, we can talk bad to each other and about Memphis, but outside of Memphis, it's like, no. You can't do that.
If anybody else, my friends from Texas make fun of Memphis, then it's not allowed. You can't do that.
We're all on the same team when we leave. We just fight amongst each other once we're here.
Memphis, I don't know, just because I was born and raised here or just the city itself, it has a vibrancy, a life kind of all its own. There's like something alive in Memphis. There's not another city that I've lived in or visited extensively that feels the same as Memphis, at least not to me.
Sound like I'm from Memphis. I don't act like I'm from Memphis, but yeah, born and raised.
Growing up in Memphis, for me,
I was born and raised here in Memphis, Tennessee.
Hey, I'm Chris Ulander. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee.
I was born here.
I was born in Memphis.
Moved to Memphis for the first time in about '62.
Born and raised in Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Then I was brought back again to Memphis, Tennessee in about 1968.
I'm from Dallas, Texas. I was born and raised there, and I moved to Memphis 3 years ago to go to college at Rhodes College.
I moved here in the 80s from Southern California
was forced to leave the islands and return to Memphis again for the third time.
I was born in San Francisco in 1970. Parents moved to Petaluma when I was somewhere around kindergarten. So we moved to Colorado right around third grade. We were there for probably 2 or 3 years.
And then about 1974, the Navy decided my dad needed to see some more of the world, and we left Millington, Tennessee, and went to Honolulu, where I started high school in 1974 and grew up and immediately started surfing. I was finally getting to live my dream. I spent time in the water with some of the greatest surfers, Mark Lydell, Jerry Lopez, Peter Townend, you name it.
You know, we were in Irvine for about a year. My parents were pretty miserable there. It was a brand new suburb. About a year went by, and my dad got word from someone at our church, we want to move into one of our rental units. It's in Balboa. So my parents told me about that. I was like, well, where's Balboa? He's like, well, basically, it's the peninsula area of Newport, and it's right on the beach. And that floored me. I was like, you're serious? We get to move to the beach? My house is literally 1 block from the beach. It was amazing to be an 8th grader, to be 14 and living at the beach. You know, go body surfing in the mornings, go eat my breakfast before school.
If you were in the water in Hawaii in the mid-70s, you generally had an opportunity. If you could hang, you could be out there with the greatest that there was in the sport. And I had the great fortune of being able to do that.
Before getting a job when I was 16, I'd spend most of my summers riding down the boardwalk every morning and go surfing. Met a lot of my lifelong friends that I still keep in touch with through surfing. It was an exciting time. Back in the 80s and in Southern California was a fun time.
I was there. I wanted to surf, and skateboarding was when we couldn't get a ride to the beach because none of us were old enough to drive. But during that time, I got to meet some of the people I went to school with that actually became some of the greatest icons in the sport of skateboarding. One in particular was Darren Hug. Went to high school with Darren, had a lot of classes with him.
I went on to college, did junior college in Costa Mesa, did 2 years there, and got away from surfing for a number of years actually, and then transferred to UC Davis in the early 90s. It was during that time that I actually started to get exposed to skating more.
When then we came back to Memphis the third time, I was 17. We spent a full three-year tour there in Honolulu. Fortunately for me, skateboarding had finally migrated from the West Coast and parts of the world that I was living in into the Mid-South.
Well, the first skateboard I got, I was in North Carolina, and I brought it with me from North Carolina. I got it when I was 5 for my 5th birthday, and brought it to Memphis. It was a plastic yellow board that was shaped. It was had the kick tail, and it had a sticker of a shark on it. I thought it was sweet.
My grandmother bought me my first board in 1984. It was a Veriflex Chaos from Kmart, and I have no idea why she thought to get a skateboard. I'm eternally grateful for it, because I love it. I've been doing it for 3 decades now.
When I got my first skateboard, it was a piece of crap Nash, plastic everything. But we still had fun. But we still had fun. I mean, we surfed the sidewalks, and
I had skated some when I was younger. My parents had bought me like a Nash board or something from Walmart.
And just sort of randomly, I got a banana board when I was like 3rd grade. And it went from fun one day to I'm going to try what I now know as rock and roll on a curb. And that ended up 2 front teeth missing.
My 6th and 7th birthday, I had a birthday party, and all these dudes showed up, and they all had skateboards. And you can see pictures of me just drooling over a skateboard. And that my parents took me like the next week up to Village Skates and Hobbies. I got my first board out there.
my first one was a plank with steel roller skate wheel, and anything to step up.
I used to steal my older brother's skateboards in the late 70s, and as soon as I was able to walk and run around, he always had like, old Walmart, Kmart banana boards sitting around, and I would steal those from him. The time I really bugged my parents to get me my own skateboard was right after Back to the Future. That's 99% of the skateboarders right there. Right after Back to the Future, everybody wanted a skateboard.
Well, I started skateboarding when I was around 7 years old. My neighbor 2 doors down had 3 girls, and they all had wooden skateboards with metal wheels on them. This was the 60s, keep in mind. And I'd just go down there and borrow them and skate around barefoot and skin up my toes real bad. And
when I was, I want to say, like 7 or 8 years old, I was in Boston, Massachusetts, on a family trip, and I saw a skateboarder skating on the sidewalk in the street, and he popped an ollie up the curb. And I remember seeing that and thinking it was just the most magical thing I'd ever seen. How did the board stay on its feet?
Member of Jetway Skateboard Park, like a bunch of the other dudes. I was just this tiny little 8-year-old grommet, and Brian Sneed's like flipping around and hitting the bell, and Mark McDaniels is killing it, and I'm just like this kid, just with my mouth open, watching these pros. And
First park in Memphis.
Jetway.
That would be Jetway.
Well, there were 2 jetways. One was on Bartlett, and one was on Mount Moriah.
There was an individual in West Memphis, Arkansas, who had twin sons. And he was a multimillionaire, had many enterprises, and he had decided to build his sons 2 skateboard parks, basically. And he chose to build them here in Memphis, one in Bartlett, Tennessee, and one in Mount Moriah.
Yeah, that was the original concrete parks before they even had coping on ramps. They're just like concrete edges going around. And
our parks were kind of cookie cutter, very little vert. In parts of the snake run, drop bowl had a foot or 2 of vert. But the worst part was they were rounded top edges. And depending on which element of the park it was depending upon how round it was, whether it was a lip, like that or like that. And so in conjunction with the building of these parks in 1977, in his marketing plan, he held a contest in the Raleigh Springs Mall in September of 1977. And it was sponsored by Pepsi, Tobey, a couple radio stations, and the skateboard parks. And I had practiced some things that I had seen and done, and I'd planned out a whole routine with everything in the book. And I was fortunate enough to basically win the whole thing. That was what kicked off the Memphis career, because I won that event, won the overall contest, and they hired me that night to work for the skateboard parks in Bartlett. We will call you the resident pro. You will run our group of guys that control, keep people from getting hurt.
Got arrested there when I was 15, along with a bunch of other dudes who were sneaking over the fence, going to skate.
Yeah, I got to skate Bartlett quite a few times, but you had to have a lookout, because if the Bartlett police caught you there, they took you to jail.
Mike got arrested there.
Thank you, Jeff Green, for the I Got Arrested at Jetway Skateboard Park t-shirt. The uncle made us a bunch of t-shirts for everybody that hit the Bartlett Slammer. My mother would be appalled to know that after I got out of jail, my uncle would swing by and said, "Dude, it's a full moon, let's hit it again tonight." So we went back and had a moonlight session.
Dude, Brian Sneed, he's still around. He's like 54, still skates.
Yep.
He was original Jetway pro. He was on the cover of a magazine in like 1977 with Shogo Kubo. He was in a wall of fire skating switch through it.
We had the Wild World of Skateboarding magazine come and shoot our parks. And the photographer, he said, this is all great and good. And it's all kind of, I've seen this everywhere I go, and I'm just not real impressed, which was kind of a bummer for most of us. But he, fortunately for me, said, "I have a concept. I want to film somebody ride through a wall of fire. You think we could do that?" Well, sure, we can do that. Fortunately for us, one of our managers at the Jetway Skate Park in Bartlett, his family owned a NHRA funny car based out of Tennessee called the Tennessee Bow Weevil. And their driver had a full flame suit, gloves, feet, the whole, 9 yards, a real flame suit. And we went and got the flame suit. We poured 5 gallons of gasoline on the ground. We lit it on fire. I took a shop rental Sims board, and the guy got on about a 6-foot ladder, and I rode through it 3 times. And he had guaranteed, if you'll do this, it'll be on the cover. I didn't get the full cover of the magazine. I got a inside shot about that big. On the cover, it was an insert, which had a legend article that was an 8x10 photo of me coming through in full surf stance, kamikaze flames coming off the wheels, which was a pretty rad little shot actually. And they used my history and my contacts to bring Jetway out to the world, to the nation. And Memphis' first true explosion with 2 skateboard parks built to pay to skate. Contest, exposure magazines, the whole thing, liability hit, insurance liability. It's really how I lost my job at Jetway, because I was a skateboarder and I didn't necessarily always follow the rules. And the waivers that you had to sign were part of the rules, and there were a couple instances where I didn't have a reporter sign a waiver, or I didn't have an employee sign a waiver, and it appeared in the newspaper, and boom.
Fortunately, I had an uncle who's a surgeon, Ward Jones. A lot of folks will know who he is, and he used to take me skating, and we'd go out to Shelby Forest, and we'd clean the pools, and we'd skate the pools out there.
And this guy moves in the building next door to me, and he doesn't know anybody, and so me and him are hanging out in the apartment complex. Then next thing you know, he's like, "Oh, my name's John, I skate." I'm like, "I used to skate." He's like, "Oh, do you know this trick and this trick?" I'm like, "What tricks? What are you talking about? I don't know any tricks."
For me, my first ramp was, I didn't know anything about cutting transitions. We basically got 2x4s and nailed them into a big L shape, and then put one like this and started to nail the plywood up on it. And of course it was giving, it was ridiculous, structurally unsound, so we would shove firewood back in the soft spots, and we would skate. So, in the beginning, our little skate scene was just, whatever ramps we could build, put them at the bottom of the driveway so you could just, hit it hard. And
we had another little blip on the map with Coca-Cola about 1979, and I happened to be working for them full time at that point, where they bought the only rad ramp Coca-Cola ever owned. I just happened to be working there, and it showed up, and I was like, "What's this?" And they were like, "Well, we bought this for promotionals." And I was like, "Can I ride it?" And they go, "Well, yeah, why don't you run a team to ride this?" And I'm like, "Hey, that sounds great." So I got all my old Jetway guys, and we formed a team, and we would do demonstrations at high schools, Cotton Carnival, Mid-South Fair, you name it. We did demos on the Coke ramp back in those days.
Grew up in Hickory Hill up until 6th grade. Then I went to Germantown, and that's Germantown Middle, and that's where I met all the skater dudes. And me and my friend Jason Fagan both got boards, and it's all skated everywhere.
When I first started skateboarding, I heard about the Bike Man, which was a bike shop down in Bartlett. He was actually starting to sell skateboard equipment, so me and some local kids from my neighborhood hung out up at the bike shop, and soon we developed a team, and we started watching the old NSA videos with Tony Hawk at Del Mar in '86.
And we had all the videos and the magazine subscriptions to Thrasher and everything. It kind of got us motivated.
He goes, "Here, check this out." So he gives me a copy of Thrasher magazine. And so now I'm just like, wow, what is this?
My exposure outside of Memphis strictly came from those videos.
The skate scenes, they're just like little pockets. There were pools that some of us would skate. I remember the Briarcrest pool, what a gnarly pool. It's so much fun. You know, we'd skate satellite dishes. I mean, whatever. We'd skate whatever we could find. Dig it out, shovel it out, clean it up. Perkins Ditch.
Perkins Ditch in the beginning.
Perkins Avenue, nice little ditch that we had it wired from, 1977 and all the way through the 80s and 90s. And it was an iconic Memphis, location. It wasn't a skate park.
They got bulldozed.
Yeah, it was a little V-shaped ditch over behind Houston High School. Not Houston, Overton High School, and near the Perkins exit. That's how it got its name.
Begging mom, gotta get a skateboard. Meet this guy, John. Now I'm headlong into it. And then that turns into my first trip down Getwell to Ron Hell and Cheapskates. Here I am standing with my mom, and we're like, what are we doing here? What are we looking for? We got no idea. All I know is my friend John is like, no, don't get a board from the store. Go get it from the shop. You gotta get it from the shop.
And my name is Ron Hale. I'm the owner of this fine skateboard shop.
Ron Hale basically spots me and my mom looking like two deer in the headlights. And next thing you know, he's asking me like, how do I skate? What do I like? And I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know.
I started skating around, like I said, then Memphis State University. And all these people just come up to me and start talking to me about skateboarding. People, I didn't know who they were. And I realized I was kind of part of a club. And one guy came up, where you get bearings? I said, I have to get a mail order out of California. How much they go for? $12. Well, here's 15. I go, dude, you just met me. How do you know I'm not going to rip you off? Well, if you rip me off, if I see you in my truck, just run you down. I said, that sounds good. And I get them the bearings, and then I had an opportunity to open this place.
He goes, I got this box over here of used parts and stuff. So he starts pulling stuff out of the box. And he starts putting my board together. He's like, no, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. No, don't worry about this piece. Don't worry about this. So next thing you know, I got a full lance mount complete. And, to this day, it's like I wouldn't have had the skateboard at all if Ron hadn't just gone, you know what? I'm going to eat it on this piece. I'm going to eat it on this. I'm going to give you these. If you break these, just bring these back and we'll upgrade. But just, skate through this first. Learn on this first. Then come back. And then we'll get you hooked up with the next level stuff, And if anybody's been to Cheapskates, you walk in there, you can walk in off the street with pieces of board in your hand. Ron will go in the back and bring you something. He was all about making sure if I can just keep you out there, if I can just keep you skating, good things are going to happen. A lot of debt to Ron because he took it upon himself to help a kid and his mom out get his first pool complete and get me on the road for sure.
Well, I had a local friend in my neighborhood. We built a little kicker ramp in his driveway. That kind of started it off. I built a half pipe in Bartlett for a friend. Then I built a vert ramp for another friend. Then Mother Skates was formed, which is a local skate shop in Bartlett. And we all joined the team. I built a bunch of ramps for that. I'm grateful for Cindy Springer for starting that shop and pushing us all because she definitely helped us progressed through the 80s, provided us with the skateboards and the ramps to do that. In 1989, the Edge was built. I was hired to help build a skate park for some friends. His parents decided to invest into it and build a park.
The Edge skate park too, that happened about like 1990, I'd say.
Wes's
Gaps
mom's
and
place.
handrails and stuff like that. Yeah,
That's where
Wes's
that
mom's
head
place.
came from.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I got punched in the face outside of there.
Oh.
By a guy with a white station class ring that had an imprint. He punched me right in the forehead.
You probably deserved it.
Fortunately, it only lasted about a year and then they shut down. And then later on, Darkside was born. A friend of ours, Clyde Warner, who owned Flying W bikes at the time, he built frames and handlebars. He wanted to open up a park. MTV Music Festival came through Memphis and Team Payne built a huge vert ramp and street setup and did it just for the festival, and then they ended up storing all the equipment downtown. So I got a petition together with over 300 skateboarders, walked right over here to this building, and got the park commission to give us those ramps. So we ended up getting the mid-size ramp, and I rebuilt it in Darkside, and that's where I learned a lot of the techniques from Team Payne. and how to build ramps correctly. And I think that's where my skills really got honed in on ramp building. And, you know, I did it all for free. I wasn't hired to do it. We did it because we needed a place to skate, and there wasn't a place to skate here besides the street. So Darkside, it lasted for a couple years. They ended up selling it to some bike riders who modified it, and I think they eventually went out of business. And after Darkside closed, we had another friend in Bartlett who wanted to open up a park. His parents funded all the money. It was called Badlands. I jumped in and helped him with that project. After that, my friend Josh Lowry and I, we got together and we started talking about building the park.
Spom.
Spom.
Spom. Spom.
Spom.
Spom.
Spom.
The first store was in Collierville, which is about 45 minutes outside of Memphis. And that was in '97. It was an old pet grooming place. So the landlord gave us a deal if we cleaned all the old hair out of it. And it was mostly the younger, 10 to 15, and they just hang out at the shop all day. So, pretty soon we're all skating together. And that was in the early 90s or mid 90s. We decided to do that. And we had a little store attached to it where we could sell boards and some tennis shoes. And from there, it just snowballed into needing a bigger place. Kids wanted to, learn how to skate, not just buy the skateboard. We had the ramps out back, so let's do some skateboard lessons. And that caught on around town, and kids were showing up. Pretty soon we didn't have any room for that.
We went to Atlanta, looked at Rampage and the X Games Park, and kind of looked at their designs and came up with our own design, and Skatepark of Memphis was formed.
We did it ourselves. It was a group of guys who all skateboarded together. I wish I could feel that again. That was the best feeling ever. We had kids lined up, and parents, everybody in the whole town lined up to come in that day when we opened. It wasn't so much a daycare. Some people called it that because a lot of kids just get dropped off for the full day, which was fine because it turned into this, everybody knows everybody's name, and we just goof off and have the best time. You feel like you're working. And at the same time, we can go out there and skate with those kids.
Spom, really, man. That place was like 14,000 square feet. I was the security guard for the first 2 years. That thing lasted 6 years, and indoor skate park terms, that's like 100.
Right.
Rampage in Atlanta closed after 8 months, and they had like the dew tours there when they first opened.
It was incredible. Josh, had an amazing thing and just served such an awesome need. And I can't imagine all the folks that wouldn't be skating now if it wasn't for Spom.
We had a nice indoor park called Skatepark of Memphis, and that had a lot of different people from a lot of different areas of town coming together, skating together, getting to know each other.
I met, some really awesome pro skaters at Spom, Donnie Barley and Sal Barbier. I got to have a ball session with those guys. Donnie Barley pretty much taught me how to 5-0 through the pocket or whatever.
We had a handful of demos there. We didn't get a lot, but the ones we did get were great, like the greatest.
Well, thanks for hosting us, Skatepark of Memphis, exactly, and we'll see you guys on the next stop.
Yeah, we'll see
on the way,
Michael
Posse.
Jackson out there ripping.
Spom lasted 6-7 years.
100% on financial reasons, There was still some support there. People were still coming, but we didn't have the same support from, our landlord.
By far, that was the most successful privately owned skate park.
April 2008, Josh had to close up shop, and I was talking to Mike Lassiter. He was talking about, let's find a place for the bowl. I was able to, buy the bowl from Josh. We tried to put it in a park. We were wanting to put it in a city park on the board of this neighborhood association. And I thought we could put it in the park. So, you know, we painted it up, we're getting ready to put it in there, and they're like, no dice. It wasn't gonna happen. I asked my wife if we could put the bowl in our backyard, and she was cool with it. I didn't realize how big it was gonna be once we put the decks all around it and the lights up and everything, but it lasted about 5 years, and I think it may have taken a couple of years off my life, but it was a lot of fun.
As Bomb was cycling down, I started getting wind through all of my friends here of Aaron's endeavors and Aaron bringing this community back together again, and it was the explosion again.
Just on our way into Memphis, the first day we drove in, we'd taken us 5 days to drive from California to Colorado. And we had a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we're coming in over the bridge, and you know, he said, I'm gonna make a skate park. I'm gonna get a skate park from Memphis. And I said, great, you know, go for it.
So we moved to Memphis in 2006. I'd just been getting heavily back into skating, and so we went from having a skate park across the street from our apartment complex to nothing. You know, about 6 months later, I built a half pipe in our ramp in our backyard. That definitely helped take care of that, you know, that skate bug that I'd gotten the last couple of years. So this is Greenlaw Community Center. I got to know about Greenlaw Community Center back in 2006 when we first moved here. I met a guy named Dedrick Golden who used to play for the University of Memphis Tigers, and he had an after-school program for the kids.
He got connected down at Greenlaw Community Center with Dedrick Golden early on, and we just give Dedrick a lot of credit for his vision and for allowing us to put a skate ramp in there, and for just being very supportive of skateboarding in North Memphis, there in the area that he worked in at the time. And he was just one of our first connections here in Memphis. So
I met Aaron in 2006. He was in the parking lot sitting on the curb talking to some kids, and I had never seen him. And at that time, a lot of white people didn't come to Greenlaw.
So we met him one day, checking out his place, scoping it out for maybe building a skate park there.
And so I'm like, who is this guy talking to my kids?
Over there, and I started pacing off the square footage of his outside property of the community center, and he came out and was like, hey, can I help you?
And so of course I approached him, he introduced himself, and told me his name, whatever. And we grew up born from there. He started telling me about he was a surfer. And I was like, I've never even spoken to a surfer. And he started telling me about skateboarding. And so I'm like, you mean skating? He's like, no, skateboarding. And so in my head, I'm thinking, you know, black kids, they don't skateboard. It's not going to happen in this center, in this city. And fast forwarded to, he said, well, give me a shot.
Dedrick Golden's one of those guys that, you know, he's a hero in my life and in many other people.
And so we started taking some kids to a little skate place in Cordova.
I said, well, what do you think about me taking some of your kids to SPOM? Because I was, you know, I wanted to see what kids in the inner city, if they'd be interested in skating, you know.
And the kids loved it. My daughter was 5 at the time. She absolutely loved skateboarding.
We took their kids out to SPOM a couple times, and they had a blast. I mean, they just went crazy all over the ramps and would slide down on their stomachs and their backs. Some tried skateboarding, and even Golden gave it a try.
Years later, can we do a skate ramp inside your facility?
I talked to Golden about, hey, what do you think about putting an indoor ramp inside your facility?
And I was like, I would love to do that.
Golden's just amazing. He's just totally open to trying new stuff. He recognizes, you know, the more stuff that you expose kids to, the better off they are. You know?
We're like, hey, you know, Dedrick wants to get this thing done inside, can't get over the hump. I come along, I'm looking for something, and I'm like, hey, got a new idea. There's a grant at work that Nike's doing for local communities. I tell Aaron, we got a good shot at winning this. If we win this, those funds can help finish the ramp.
So you just require you to vote every day and So we did. For the next month, I sat every morning and voted for this contest, and along with a number of other people.
We now have a ramp in here that we built back in 2009 with a grant that we got from Nike. The kids have been skating on the ramp for about 5 years.
And if you go there today, you see the half pipe inside our activity room. Kids still skating, adults skating. In a million years, I would never thought that you would have little inner city kids skateboarding. Basketball, football, that's the norm. Maybe baseball, it was in the fourth equipment. But skateboarding, and then when I have guests come in from my office, they look over there and they're taken aback by it. They're like, whoa, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I'm in my office looking like, yeah, you seeing some little black kids skate, having a ball, laughing, falling, getting back up, trying it again. They loved it.
When we were driving across the bridge to Memphis, I told my wife, I'm like, we need to build a skate park for this town. Any town this size needs a skate park.
Aaron is the front end for Skate Life Memphis. You have to at least mention Chris Gurley and they were the two pushers for years to get a skate park built in Memphis.
2004 or so, when I moved back to Memphis, we were going to SPOM a lot, and then a couple of years after that, I heard about Aaron and heard about his efforts to try to get a skate park here, both as a public city park, and then we were also trying to do the Mud Island thing.
Right around summer of 2006 when we got here, and in October of 2006 we had the website up for Skate Park for Memphis, and within 6 months I changed that to Skate Life Memphis, having realized that there's a lot of pride in the city. Anything that has Memphis in it goes well.
Teach Sunday school class. I have these other things I'm trying to do, trying to make a difference. I said, you know what? I like skating, but I'm not skating. But, if I could be the Ron Hale to some kid, I can do that now. So I said, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna figure out some sort of skate ministry. As I'm just Googling and looking up stuff, I come across article about Skate Life Memphis, come across an article about Aaron. And I got Aaron's number and I called him. He answered the phone. He's like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing. Yeah, let's get together and blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, make a lunch date, a breakfast date. Okay, so I'm gonna go meet these Skate Life Memphis guys. I'm gonna figure out what's going on and see if I can sort of sneak in the back door. And then, I go meet him at the Blue Plate, and it's just kind of like, so, what's your organization? Who are your people? And it's like, oh, just me and, Chris Gurley, it's like 3 or 4 guys. I'm like, that's it?
At first I was kind of a cheerleader. I don't know, was a cheerleader a good word?
Also just giving me, hands-on help, making signs, making logos, things.
Yeah.
Very practical.
So yeah, I should have wore our Skate Mud t-shirts.
Yeah.
We did that one.
As soon as he says he works at St. Jude, my wife works at St. Jude. So he's a researcher there. My wife worked for ALSAC, which she still does, which is the fundraising arm. So, so right then and there, I'm like, okay, so my wife, I know what you're about. We're hitting it off at breakfast, and the next thing you know, he starts telling me about it, and we hatched this plan for the skate park, like literally on a napkin.
Well, like I say, Aaron's irresistible. His energy is incredible. He's a giving spirit, and everybody, if Aaron's pushing hard for something, anybody that knows Aaron knows that whatever he's pushing hard for is working out for it.
Just looking at Aaron and looking at Aaron's efforts and seeing the reaction he was getting both from the community, the skate community itself, and the city, I felt like he needed some help, or he was just gonna fall off the wayside and just almost give up. I mean, he needed some support and some backing. Since skateboarding is so close to my heart, that was a good place to start. So I jumped right in and started helping Aaron.
And we just started talking to people as soon as we got here. Would this be a possibility? Would it be accepted? What is already happening with the skate community here in Memphis and meeting all those people? So that started right away.
Right around that time, SPOM, Skate Park of Memphis, closed its doors. So the skate community was getting pretty desperate at that time. So as much of a misfortune that was for Josh Lowry, who was the owner and operator, it turned out to be really good timing for getting people mobilized and rallied to try to do something different and to not lose the momentum that Mom, spent 5-7 years generating, by having that park open. So,
what were some of your initial thoughts about My Big Mouth?
I admired the drive, and I thought it was going to be a very difficult path for you. I really did.
To be quite honest, the first mention of it came from Aaron, and my first reaction was, there ain't no way this damn city's ever going to give us money for a skate park.
From there, I met with the Parks Department and kind of made a case for them why we should have a skate park. And
because it was you, in fact, that came to our door and sat down and started asking about, why can't we have a skate park in Memphis?
They had thought about it for a while anyways, and they had made a push a couple years prior to me meeting with them to get a skate park, but it didn't go very far.
Really wasn't on our agenda. I'm sorry to say, we really weren't thinking forward as much as we should have been.
When we first got here, it felt like the city was going nowhere, honestly.
A skate park was something new to me. I hate to say, but Memphis is kind of I don't know what you got. Sometimes we get stuck in the old ways, I think.
Many of the things that raised some questions that I did, I was trying to free us from ourselves. Bike lanes, for example. If you were here, you would have thought I had mandated that everybody had to ride a bike to work every day. If you're 86 years old, you got to get on that bike. And all I said was, I want to put some paint down Madison. So if you wish, you can ride the bike. You don't have to ride a bike. I mean, it was almost Civil War.
We had ball fields. I think we had over 100 ball fields. We have 50 playgrounds. We have 10 golf courses, I think. We have tons of things that have been there a long time. We have 30 community centers. We had no skate park. We weren't even thinking skate park.
We started working on getting a website together. I threw a website up within 3 months and started at the time what was known as Skate Park for Memphis.
There's a lot of positive aspects. Even if you're not a skateboarder, there are positive aspects to having a good skate park in the city.
Aaron was, rallying and pushing and gathering the troops together.
And then all of a sudden, miles and miles and miles away, there's an earthquake, 2 miles underneath the ocean. Nobody sees it. Nobody knows about it. It's Aaron Schaefer.
It took somebody almost every little generation of that 40-year time frame to make that explosion happen.
You pulled it through. You found the right people to talk to.
You came and met with us with a representative of the Hyde Foundation, and I think that brought, some additional, a solid known entity came with you that really made us take stock and say, well, why not?
Aaron Schaefer, his name was the buzz around all the kids skating for a while because everybody was talking about, how motivated you were and everything.
I think Aaron's been the right spokesman for the skate community and loves to meet people, and he's outgoing, and he also has a scientist side to him, and he would make stacks of reports and hand them to council people and mayor's assistants and talk to them, and he's incredibly tenacious, so he just wasn't gonna stop, And
You were the only one waking up in the morning thinking about this and going to sleep thinking about this.
That's true.
You just were. That's what it took. And that's why I thought you did such a good job. You were patient, and I thought you were good at communication and just kept plugging away.
Considered you a champion for the skate park because we had lots of kids out there doing things on the streets. Nobody came to us. We didn't go to them. You know, there wasn't really a spokesperson until you showed up on our door and we said, ah.
Spring of 2008, they wanted to do a rally or a skateboard demonstration just to gauge, what sort of interest was out there. So we ended up having this rally right around April 2008.
I could not believe the turnout. Hundreds of skaters. I mean, I was blown away that there were that many skaters in Memphis. I didn't know.
City, like, how many people showed up for that first meeting? 700 and something. And it was the most people that ever showed up for anything for any reason in the city of Memphis.
You talking about at the fairground?
Yeah.
I think it was about 400, but it was on a Thursday at 3:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
The city park commission thought there were less than 100 skateboarders in the city of Memphis. We proved them wrong.
I think the fairgrounds rally really was eye-opening for me.
4 days before the rally, we went onto MySpace and just hit the announcement board like every day. It was amazing. So everyone just kept on reposting, come to the rally, come to the rally. So
I think, if I remember right, we used social media a lot. And I don't remember if it was MySpace or Facebook, I don't remember.
MySpace. I'd almost forgot about that.
We just kept pushing it out there and trying to get as many kids to the fairgrounds because we knew who was going to be there. There was going to be people from the city to see what this was all about. I think we made a flyer, tried to push it out there to rally as many kids as possible.
This rally was the most faded against rally I've ever seen.
Yeah. We did the rally, which on that day it turned out it rained, so we thought they were going to cancel it, and then at the last minute they decided to move it indoors. So we were thinking, oh, this is going to be a total failure.
Because they scheduled it for 2 o'clock on a school day in the middle of the fairgrounds. They changed the date at the last second.
And the Commercial Appeal had announced the date to be on a different day than it actually was. So
the Memphis Flyer got the date wrong in the first place. Then it started to rain that day and they changed the location of that event at the last second.
It was just set up for disaster. But lo and behold, I get off work and go over to the fairgrounds and go inside the hog barn. Much to my surprise and amazement, we had 300 or 400 people show up for that rally. All the skaters were skating around in a roller rink style, just chaotic. I mean, the Parks Department was pretty much overwhelmed. They had waivers set up for maybe 50 people to show up. It was hilarious. It looked like some scene out of the Titanic. You literally had 100 kids crawling all over these demo ramps. It looked like they were falling off of them. I mean, it looked like ants had taken over a picnic. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming.
Circle of Doom going, or whatever they call that.
Yeah, when they started like a big mosh pit skating around there.
Right, the park commission people freaked out.
Yeah, they were like
awesome.
Yeah, but it was powerful though.
Yes,
pretty powerful.
They got their attention.
Yeah.
The parks director had these, and her eyes just were huge. She's like, Aaron, can you settle these guys down? I'm like, settle 300 or 400 skaters down? I'll try. I wasn't going to tell her no.
Hey, everybody, listen up! Shut up! You can't hear anything.
I couldn't settle them down, but it made a serious mark and impression on our parks director. She went to the city council and said, we need a skate park.
When the skating park came along, I saw a certain liberation there.
Without any fanfare, they approved $440,000 on the spot for the park. So that was pretty surprising. I was like, okay, let's do this. Our parks director, she requested the money in 2008. They got it in July 2008, not too far after the rally time. You know, all of the skate community was hyped. We're like, yeah, we're gonna get a park next year. Well, it took almost 3 years for the city to decide where they wanted to put the park.
So people were like, $500,000 for a skateboard park? Wouldn't we be better off putting that money into our schools?
And it was the tradition that you can't spend money on a skateboard till you fix every pothole, cut every weed.
And at the time, there were people in charge that weren't big advocates of the skate park. And
the objections were maybe at the beginning and on the location. All right. And frankly, I didn't understand the objection. I still don't really understand why someone would say, no, I don't want it in my district.
We invited Councilwoman Halbert and had a meeting at the Orange Mound Neighborhood Center.
Correct.
To talk about what we were doing. That was before. We didn't do it and then say, let's go tell the black community what we have done.
When I got elected, Dedrick Brittenham, the council member before me, the very first thing he said was, you've got to deal with Chargene Park. They have approved the funding 15 years ago, and we've been fighting to get the park up. And so it became like a pet project of mine. And then out of the blue comes the skate park.
It was the usual. Black folks don't do that. That's rich white folks. That's a white thing. Why are you spending money on that?
I mean, I don't care. We can put 1 million parks up. I don't care. That's not a big deal to me. But you can't treat a certain community different from another community. You just can't do it. And that's what I was elected to do, to protect those people who would have been impacted or affected. And so that meant the Glenview community, who didn't know anything about the park.
You know, it was said to me that, you know, why are you doing this? This is just for white kids. Black folks don't do this.
So the question became, how does this other park suddenly supersede a park the community has been waiting on for almost 20 years at that time?
I think the way we handled it is we went ahead of time and said, all right, here we are. Here's what this is, here's what. And then the question came up, well, black people won't be able to afford skateboards.
It was the craziest thing in the world. And then if you stop and you think about it, I mean, just, it fell right into the issue that Memphis struggles with the most, the socioeconomic racial.
I wanted to make sure that the symbolic value was just as great as the real value in terms of breaking down these walls of that's a white activity, that's a black activity, and it has to be either or. You can't have both.
Just showed up thinking they can put a park in our community and not say anything, but in reality, it was the parks director who had been talking to them, ignoring the Chargene Park. She actually had started dipping into their money, so she was spending their park money and didn't have enough money for the park. It was just strange, but he saw the frustration. I was angry. I was hot.
You know, when you're prioritizing projects, it doesn't make sense to keep doing the same thing over and over again when you haven't done something that people are looking for. And so we were able to shift some money in the budget and provide, create a project and move forward that way. Probably faster than you might have thought, or maybe it wasn't fast enough. I don't know.
Well, it took almost 3 years for the city to decide where they wanted to put the park.
We had battles with the city council. We had back and forth with funding. Aaron had funds secured for several years, but never got the approval for it. We tried to get multiple things, multiple locations. Other locations didn't want it. Some locations, we wanted, and the people in the city didn't want it.
After a couple of personnel changes in parks, things started happening faster and faster. Getting in with Mayor Wharton helped a lot.
Well, the hard work that a lot of grassroots organizations were working on, kind of under the radar, but not being really championed or recognized, was now important to that administration. So it was exciting to see how you know, in my opinion, Mayor Wharton just took some low-hanging fruit and said, hey, let's do this. You know, that was great.
I mean, it was a fairly, in the overall scheme of expenditures that we make in government. We had the space, we had the real estate,
We had the money.
and we had so
It was on the CFP.
just do it.
We were able to finally connect with one council person, Jim Strickland.
And I always thought throughout this whole process, you were the one guy that made a difference. There were other people who were supporting it for sure, but you had the tenacity just to keep going and going and going.
So we had the money, we had an idea for a park. Then our job kind of turned into waiting and managing.
It was a lot of getting your hopes up because you hear good things, and then nothing happens, or there's some bad news from somebody. So I was skeptical if it was going to happen or not, or when.
I think really honestly, if you had not been involved, it would have died on the vine.
I did have faith in Aaron though, because he was real gung-ho about it, so I knew something would happen. Didn't know when.
I had breakfast with him one morning and said, Jim, I think this project's dead. You know, we've had to reapprove the money through almost, I think it was 3 budget cycles at that time. Like, I don't see it ever happening. You know, one of the other council members is gonna say, why are we reapproving this money every year if it's not being used? So, you know, we're getting desperate. So
I picked up the phone and I called Robert Lipscomb and Cindy Buchanan separately and said, can we put it in Tobey Park? And they both said yes.
That summer, what was it, 2010, he and Mayor Wharton announced that they were going to have the location be at Tobey Park, right next to the Memphis School Board. That was what we needed. We just needed someone to say, hey, this is a great project, let's do this, which is what we've been saying for 3 years.
So we did have a groundbreaking event. Mayor Wharton was there. Aaron, myself, Thurman, and a few others were out there. They had gold shovels.
1, 2, 3. Woo! We're done.
And I've still got that picture. It's sitting on my desk at work. Myself, the mayor, Aaron, and all of us that helped get the skate park going. After that, it was a lot of waiting and tempering rumors, and I mean, because the skate community by then knew what was happening.
2011, the construction crew came in, and we got the park built. My boys and I would go over there almost every day, take pictures of the construction, just to soak in the process. You know, when you wait for something for 5 years, you just want to soak it all in. As maybe trivial as it may seem to watch people move dirt, it's pretty gratifying too, to see the ground broken and it move and get shaped over a period of 3 months into what you've had in your mind for 5 years. So Mike Lassiter had a huge part in helping put on the final design touches for the park. So that worked out really well for a guy who's been so integral to the skate community. To be able to have the final kind of architectural touch, to put those final architectural touches on the design, was very fitting for him. So I was quite honored to have him be able to do that.
We had all the drawings and we just kind of, you know, went over everything, and you know, I think I might have changed up a few things in the big bowl, and you know, and then it got down to the wire, and Wormhout was wanting more definite detail, so that's when I drew out the snake run with dimensions and levels and everything that he would be looking for, and he was stoked on it. And I guess everybody was stoked on it. So yeah, I had some influence on the design, just like all of us did. I was happy to be a part of it too.
All right, so once they actually did officially break ground, they started shaping things out, scooping out the earth, and Aaron and I both would go up there every day on our way home from work. It's out of the way for you. You'd have to pass home, go out to the park, and then go back home. Every day I would go by there and I would look, and there'd be something else. So they're like, oh, this is gonna be, I'm gonna be able to hit this and then go over here. Then they started putting in the coping. They're like, oh, the coping's going. They started pouring the actual forms. I'm like, oh man. Butter. And it was, it was August. It didn't rain that much, but there were still rainy days. And the wife's like, you went by the parking and my shoes would come on to be caked with mud just from walking around the whole place.
Anytime there was a change, it warranted a new picture. So the whole process is documented.
Yeah. There was also the day where you, myself, and Mike were officially asked to go out and test out Tobey.
We opened it up in 2011, and it's been just amazing.
So I was shoot skating with a couple of friends, and one of them got a text saying, Tobey's open, people are skating there. I was like, at first I was kind of mad. I was like, they're not supposed to be doing that. They're threatening our park. They're going to take it away from us. But we went out there, and I couldn't resist. I had to go. I had to skate too.
The grand opening, we had probably 200 or 300 people show up. It was a wild night. It was a lot of fun. The energy in the air just reminded me of the fairgrounds rally again. So it was fun to relive that stoke. And we went from nowhere to, hey, we're catching up. It was very exciting. I feel like we're moving into the 21st century in terms of having more recreational options.
Tons of people were out there, and everybody, like, whatever any negative things that anybody ever said about it, once they started skating it didn't seem to matter that much.
It was huge.
Yeah.
Again, once I was amazed, like, when the show at the fairgrounds over here, I just couldn't believe how many people showed up. Yeah, it made me very excited and very positive for the Memphis scene.
Oh, we're definitely excited.
We couldn't believe it. And to see AC have his final campaign promise was to bring a skate park to the city of Memphis.
AC was out there with a shovel, if I'm not mistaken.
He was. AC called him Crazy Aaron. He said, Crazy Aaron, he come running up with his arms waving outside. I'm walking down, he goes, that first time I remember, now I know him as Crazy Aaron.
We're pretty good friends, but we've only known each other since the opening of the Tobey Park. We met the first time, and it's a great story, and I love to tell it. I showed up. I just found out. I didn't even know the park was being built until somebody said, "Oh, it's opening." So I rushed up here. They had temporary lights set up. The mayor, they're trying to give their speeches, and of course I don't want to hear the mayor talk. I don't care. I want to skate. I want to skate. And I knew just as soon as they were done, those lights were going to go away. So I'm trying to get it. I'm just trying to get mine while I can. They were asking everybody to stop skating, while the mayor spoke or whatever. And I didn't hear any of that, And so next thing you know, this old guy steps out in front of me. I'm going full bore, and he, basically almost made me eat it. He tried to say something, I think, and I just, kept going. And then the next time, he reached out and grabbed me or whatever, and I pretty much told him he had one more time, and I was going to break his hip. We almost got into it, and so after the speeches and everything, he comes up and he's like, I was trying to stop you because they were fixing to send the cops. Basically, were fixing to be the one stopping you.
All the claims that we've made for the last 3 or 4 years actually were right.
Yeah,
it's nice to people see that what we were saying wasn't just a marketing ploy, but we're just telling the truth about it.
Yeah, we're in the best skate park within 200 miles.
Yeah.
And Nashville's a little bit bigger. Little Rock's got a few little things, but yeah, we're the best one within 200 miles.
Smooth concrete and flow.
Oh, nice. You can get on and you can skate for 10 or 12 minutes without actually having to push.
Everybody that's here is always everybody's so hyped to everybody landing. I love the flow of the whole park, and said how smooth it is. There's some parks that aren't that smooth. Campus, everybody here. It's pretty awesome.
There's definitely a general meeting ground now for skateboarders. Used to it was maybe you'd see someone going down the street. Maybe you'd see on Facebook someone was out skating. It's just always there for you, that place. You see people of all ages and races and every difference in the world at the same place doing the same thing, and they don't care about any their differences. You're there for one thing, and you should share it with everyone. That's right.
Tobey is the reason that the scene in Memphis has broadened and become bigger in the sense that all these small groups have a place where they are drawn together to not be this clique, not be this clique, not be this clique, but be a Tobey skateboard.
How Tobey bridges the gap. Like, who knows how many relationships have started from two people from different parts of the track, never met each other, never saw each other, seeing each other do different tricks and say, hey, let's go grab a bite to eat. Like, you never know the untold stories behind things like that.
When you come to the skate park, you see all types of people from all walks of life. You know, as we all know, Memphis is a very deep-rooted issue with segregation. It's a very unique history that we have here, and something that I don't see at the skate park. I don't see, you know, segregation there. I see people coming together. If anything, this guy's trying to help this guy how to figure out how to ollie for the first time. Or this guy's trying to help this girl try to drop in. Maybe his girlfriend, maybe his friend, who knows? It doesn't matter at the skate park.
The first thing I look for, you know, when I walk into Tobey skate park is how many parents are here today. You know, that leaves an impact on me as a parent.
Family, it's one big family, and you know, just a healthy, community-minded environment. We've made a lot of great friends. You know, enjoy spending time with our kids. Very important.
I think the most important thing and an awesome thing about Tobey is that it gives kids a place to go. It just gives people another outlet to try. And so Tobey plays a part in that. Plays a part in when I moved back to Memphis from Washington, that's where I reconnected with all of the people and Kirkwood. You know, I met Kirkwood at Tobey, and he's my best friend today, my business partner.
Well, we've met people that have come in through. We've met people from California that were just driving through and Googled skate park, found Tobey.
And it's a safe place to skate for kids. The value of a skate park is immense in terms of the learning curve of skateboarding. Skateboarding is a difficult thing to do, and it's even harder if you don't have a place to skate. So Tobey has really been integral in developing the skill levels of some of the rippers that you'll see all over the Memphis skate scene. Like Jack Carlson and Mitch Luffridge, some of the guys that grew up as little Groms at Skate Park of Memphis are now like flourishing in skating due to the Tobey skate park.
The kids, you know, the time to establish relationships, give them an opportunity to have a safe place to skate, you know, and the most overwhelming part for me is how great everybody has been willing to cope and teach, you know, each other, you know, so that's really been a plus.
Airs are fun.
Airs are your favorite
Especially
trick?
yeah, it's my favorite. It's when you go super high, it just feels like you're up there forever. It's really good.
Man, the impact of Tobey is, I mean, you'll cruise by there and it'll be 100 degrees and there's kids out there skating. You know, I've got an office I have to drive past it every single day and I'm like, geez Louise, these kids are out there ripping. These kids get to hone their skills, they get to get out there with their buddies. You know, there's always, you know, younger kids out there.
It's not the biggest park I've ever been to. It's not the raddest, but it has some amazingly cool elements. It is built for all levels of skateboarding. Any level can have fun at that park, and that to me is what really keeps it alive and what makes it sustainable for the long term. Is if you build something that will fit all levels.
I think where we're at now is a good place to be. I guess I could say that the community that exists here is very strong, and we can have the 5 or 6 different cliques of people show up at Tobey and nobody gets in a fight and nobody, you know, we all just skate together.
Anytime you can have all ethnicities together, having a ball, having fun, the city can grow that way. And one thing I like about Aaron, he challenged the city to see people differently, activities differently, to kind of go against the norm.
And Memphis has a great scene. You know what else is really awesome about the skate scene in Memphis? The integration of the skaters and the bikers and the rollerbladers.
Since there is community here, we can build community around the skate park.
To keep that brotherhood going, just being cool to everybody and making the family grow stronger, and ensure the survival of our species.
Skate parks, it's tangible, it's physical, and it's easy for people to grasp. They can go see it and experience it. So in the future, I would like to think we get more skate parks and other community involvement sort of projects that revolve around outdoors, getting youth involved.
Kids just grow up being a little more confident and having a place where they're recognized. That's great. If they go on and compete and do great things, maybe they'll be able to mentor the next generation of kids coming up and make an impact on their lives. So that's where skating is.
We just always want to give props to you, Aaron.
Yes.
We know you like to be behind the scene, and your family's so humble. But this wouldn't be what it is right now if it wasn't for you. If you didn't have that vision, and if you didn't, fight for this for our children and the children of this community. So we just want to give hats off to you and say thank you for giving our kids the opportunity, and all the people that visit the city the opportunity to do this.
Absolutely.
So hats off to you.
And we thought we'd like to sing a little song.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I like to hear that.
Memphis.
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 Memphis. Memphis. Memphis.
Memphis.
Memphis.
When we were driving across the bridge to Memphis, I told my wife, we need to build a skate park for this town.
you.